We got no attendees today. Huh, how about that? Is that guy gonna come and join us, Ren? Or did he flake out? Navajo?
No, I talked to him. I talked to him this afternoon, and
He's sick.
they've just put in an application, and he wants to wait until next month.
Oh, okay.
And they're not likely to hear that actually even 2 months. So I think we're good till next month.
Okay, so we'll skip that one. That's too bad. I was looking forward to that. Tess is telling me that the zoning number for Corey Kitchens is wrong. I think it may be incomplete. I didn't know that, but we can get to that when we get to that 7.2.
Yeah, I couldn't find that either. So I think we've got a
figure that out.
Bad reference.
All right, you're all set. Your host, Fred, and it's up and running. I see Marcus in the waiting. Tess is here too.
All right, good.
In the attendees.
Okay, there we go. Make them panelists. Panel, here we go. Panel on the wall. Who's the famous of them all? Okay, I guess it's time to get serious because I want to eat dinner. So I hope this meeting goes fast. I'm hungry. I've been eating all day. Okay, so let's see. We will start then. I think we have everybody here. Let me check the attendees one more time. No attendees. We have a quorum, so I will call this meeting to order. The Planning and Land Use Committee regular meeting on March 13th, 2023. The time is 6:02 p.m. And we have 0 members of the public attending. That's too bad. So with that, let's go to the roll call. And we will start with Ren Blight.
Here.
Fred Iberry is here. Tess Taylor.
Here.
Mark Stevenson.
Here.
Bob Scabelli.
Here.
Jonathan Gregory.
Here.
Ron Rubini.
Here.
Lee Jameson, I don't see, so we'll just leave him blank for now. Hopefully he'll show up. And then let's go to our minutes, item number 3.
Mr. Co-Chair, may I make 2 points of order? Thank you.
Yes.
So the first point of order is that we have an incomplete planning file that's being discussed today. I asked about that in an email at 3:53 p.m. I don't know, Ren, if you and Fred saw that, but the item number, because I wanted to review it before the meeting, let's see, 7.2, new business, Corey Kitchen, I believe he's a planner. The project case number is ZA, which is a zoning item 2023-83-F. is either incorrect or incomplete, so it could not be looked up and reviewed, and therefore no decision on it can be made today. Can you please give us the correct item for that, the correct number?
Yes, Ren is on mute, and if you could unmute yourself, Ren, that would be great. There you go.
Yeah, I discovered the same thing when I was trying to look it up, and we didn't take it off the agenda because I was hoping somebody else might be able to fill us in on at least what it is. But we'll have to move it till next month.
What is it? I have no idea.
I don't know either at this point.
Who put it on the agenda?
I think I did because it was came through as a reference. I put it on the agenda expecting to be able to read up on it and then couldn't find it. So
did you ask Corey Kitchen?
I didn't. No.
Okay. Is he the one who provided the number to you?
I don't remember. I think it was an email. Yeah, at this point
all right.
I don't remember all that.
I mean, it's important stuff. So if we could get that straight. To me, the first person to ask would be Corey Kitchen. So,
okay.
But we're not discussing or making any decisions on it tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, good. So then that's that. The second point of order, please, is that we have a an attendance issue here, the same way that we have in public safety, which is that this committee is being called a joint committee of the general board and of planning and land use, which it is not. And we're out of compliance with our bylaws with respect to committee membership. And I have brought this up with public safety as well. This is according to Article 7, Committees and Their Duties, Section 3E of committee membership. And a decision is being awaited by the city attorney as to whether this is, compliant or not. It does not appear to be. I'm told that a rule exists that allows it, but no one has been able to produce that rule to satisfy me. And until then, I'm going to rely on the bylaws, which is firm. So any decisions we make tonight, unless or until this is confirmed as being appropriate by the city attorney, would not stick. So I think that's important to point out. We have 5 board members, 5 Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council board members currently on this committee, and we're allowed a maximum of 4 under the circumstances. So that's what I have to say. That is my second and final point of order for the moment.
Thank you, Tess. No, I too was confused about that at one point, whether it's called joint general board and planning and land use, or planning and land use committee regular meeting. And I remember that the reason why it was kept for the joint general is because there were 4 board members on the committee.
I mean, more than 4. 4 is acceptable, but more than 4 is not, unless in fact it is a joint planning and land use / board meeting, which from time to time might be acceptable under, exceptional circumstances, but not as an ongoing workaround. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be great to find out what's what, because I've always wondered about that myself and wasn't sure if it's 4 or 5 or what's what. So
well,
thank
it's
you.
4. Yeah, it's 4 according to the bylaws. And it looks like Jonathan might have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Jonathan.
Let's finish up on that subject. It's different. Anything else?
That's all I have for that. So
Okay.
we need to get a decision on that. So that's it.
Before we get into the meeting, also, it's a point of order, Fred. It might be a good idea, because sometimes Mark steps away before the end of the meeting to talk about next month's meeting, whether it's in person or it's by Zoom.
I don't know yet. That's a good question. I think Colby, you could shed some light on that. I was planning it to be in person, but I'm not sure.
Yes, all meetings next month have to be in person. So I'm working on getting, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow at exec. I'm working on getting us space at Toluca Lake Elementary. So I'm moving forward with that paperwork, and then we discuss that as a board, and then there'll be more on exec tomorrow. But it's required to have in-person meetings towards the end of this month.
That's for committees.
It's required.
That's for committees too.
Everything.
Okay.
Okay, so starting next month, in-person meetings are required.
If we have, yes, there are no more Zoom meetings. Now, tomorrow is a exec discussion, and it's going to take us off topic. I'm just a member of the public right now on this committee. But tomorrow there'll be more discussion of this at the exec meeting. But we are not allowed to do Zoom meetings or purely Zoom meetings next month. And a quorum for committees and board members have to meet in person starting next month for all meetings, committees, and general board. And we can discuss the possibility of teleconferencing under emergency situations. But that's it's gonna be a long discussion.
Okay, Mark, you have your hand up.
But just to back to it, if we're not meeting in person, then there's no meeting. It's not my decision. That's the Brown Act decision statewide.
So I will. Hello, everybody.
By the way, we're echoing.
Yeah, there we go. So Colby, thank you for looking for a location. I will volunteer Harmony Toluca Lake. Colby, you're getting the echo off of me.
Okay, thank you so much. this time around, and thank you. That could work theoretically. Jeff Daniel at Toluca Lake Elementary has been kind enough to offer. Here's why. If a property is owned by anyone outside of the city of Los Angeles, we're required to obtain a lease from the property owner, not the tenant, from the property owner, in order to conduct business or meetings on that property. And it's taken me a long time offline to work this and figure all this stuff out.
And
So,
that's what-
but thank you so much. I'd love the church. It would be a great place.
Well, it's great, just so everybody knows.
And then, and also it has to be ADA compliant, and also any kind of religious symbolism in the room has to be covered up with a sheet.
Right. So Colby, if you can mute yourself for a second, because there's that echo. Okay. So the room that we have at Harmony doesn't have any symbols, so we're good there. But anyway, it might be good to be at the school, but just so everybody knows, I would still leave at 7. That way it gives me enough time to get back to the church for the group meeting that I have. So, because it's just down the street. So I think that would still work for me. Thank you, Jonathan, for bringing it up.
Can I just ask one quick thing, Colby? Is that also included for committee meetings? What you just said, the rules for locations?
Yes, the rules apply for all meetings to the public. That the public are, yes, all meetings. It's the same rules that apply for committees and for general board.
Okay.
It's a Brown Act requirement.
All right. Okay, thank you for that. From that, let's go to the minutes, section 3. And I would like to read the motion to approve the GTLNC February 13th, 2023 Plum Committee minutes. Do I have a first?
Tess,
Tess, okay. Do I have a second?
Ron,
Ron, okay, there we go. Tess and Ron. Thank you. So, Ren Blight. All right, first of all, any discussion? Or if we got to talk about it first. Put your hands up. Would you like to speak?
excellent job.
Nobody wants to speak? Okay.
thank you.
Okay, yeah, well, that's Tess. Yeah, Tess gets the credit for these beautiful minutes we have.
Oh, okay.
And so, yes, thank you, Tess. Ren Blight.
Yes,
Yes, okay. Mark?
Yes.
Yes. Jonathan?
Yes,
Yes. Fred? Yes. Bob? Bob, how do you vote for the minutes?
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes,
Yes, okay. Ron?
Yes,
Tess?
Yes,
And I don't see Lee. Let me just check the, check the attendance. No, Lee is not here. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 0 for that. And with that, we go to public comment. Nobody's here from the public, so I guess we just split to number 5, committee member news and announcements. If anybody has something to say, raise your hand.
hang on. Yes, okay.
Hey, Tess, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a meeting tomorrow, SCAG meeting, the Southern California Housing March report, and last chance to register. Ren, you may have received this SCAG and SANDAG housing workshop. SCAG is the Southern California Association of Governments, and SANDAG is the similar one in San Diego, the San Diego Association of Governments. Tomorrow, March 14th, Tuesday, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. to learn how Vienna, Austria has solved their housing situation by adopting a social housing model. It's been the subject of a couple of interesting articles and books that I've read, so I'm actually rather pleasantly surprised to see them giving some focus to it. So if anyone's interested, I can forward you the email. It's worth paying attention to what these guys are up to. So that's it.
Terrific.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, Tess, if you would forward that to me, I don't think I got that from Scott.
Okay, I'll send it to the whole group. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Really quick, just before we lose Colby, and I'm sure we'll talk about this at our next general meeting, but at what point will we find out if we're going to be in person or not have a meeting at all? I'm assuming we'll be.
Oh, we'll find out. Well, we are eventually meeting in person no matter what. There's two major processes. The first one, as you've probably heard me discuss, was the general board in meeting place. And that's going to be Toluca Lake Elementary School, the auditorium. That's their once per month general board meeting place. And if you remember, I had to have that inspected by the ADA and all that stuff. And that began back in December. At that time, we were not cleared yet for takeoff to apply to find a place for our committee meeting spaces. That happened more recently. And I have been searching and I ran into roadblocks. I approached Craig Strong. I approached another office, actually my own office manager here at my office here, where I'm now, and also another building owner in Toluca Lake, private building owner. All three said no to us because the city now requires a written lease, binding lease to take place between the city and us and the building's owner. And even at my office here, there are actually 6 owners of this piece of real estate that I'm in right now. And even just the logistics of getting a lease signed, and that lease would be on top of the other lease that, like for instance, Craig Strong, Compass Real Estate leases that building from someone. And so you have to modify the existing lease. And even if somebody wanted to do this, so it became very, very difficult. I saw a roadblock. So I then visited Rio Vista School. I visited the police station. I visited in person. I visited our fire department, Firehouse 86. And I inspected, those as possibilities. The police station is actually out of our jurisdiction, which I've found now we have to stay in our jurisdiction, which makes sense in our boundaries. So I had to write that off. The fire station didn't have an adequate break room. Their room is about 200 square feet, and it would not accommodate us. Rio Vistas, we met with them, very nice, but it just didn't quite work out as far as scheduling goes. And so I went back, it was so nice, to Jeff Daniel and explained what was going on. And we're moving forward with the possibility of having a couple classrooms to accommodate our committees. And I'm just still in dialogue with him.
All right, so that would be the Toluca Lake School then, if anything happens. But it sounds to me from what you're saying that we probably will not have a meeting in April for all this.
I'm working. I'm doing everything I can. I've applied. So there's an application process with the city clerk, and then goes to LAUSD, and then back to. It bounces around between myself, the city clerk, LAUSD, and the principal of whatever school that we're applying to.
It's going to be
the paperwork, and also now we have an agent from LAUSD. I spoke with her today. Her name's Nancy. She's very nice. She's still working on closing essentially it's like a deal for our general board meetings at the Toluca Lake Elementary. I still haven't received a final sign off on that. The good news is that I'm told that we will not need a separate ADA inspection to access the classrooms. So that'll save about a month right there.
Well, that's good.
The neighborhood councils are going through this. I believe that we have a good shot of meeting again in April. But there'll be more
general meeting and possibly the committee, but so we'll just find out on an email, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, if what's going on.
I'll be very excited to share with you whatever statement I get from LAUSD and or the city saying that we have been finally approved. I believe it'll come. We're at the last stage, and now this woman Nancy I spoke with at LAUSD said all she needs to do now is confirm. I'm told. Confirm with Jeff Daniel that yes, he is going to allow us to use the auditorium for general board meetings, and then hopefully the next application process for the committee meetings, which is moving forward, will go much faster.
Well, that's fine. I would like to suggest for our April meeting we hold it on March 31st, so we can still have it on Zoom. this month.
That's a possibility. Yes. If you let me know if you really want to do that, you
Yes,
could do that
would.
as a backup.
If the other committee members agree to that, I would suggest we have our April meeting on March 31st. So then we don't have to worry about the time crunch until May. And also, I also want to say that I actually quite like Mark's suggestion that we use their other room, not the church. They have another social room there on the property for meetings. And even if we have to start the process and sign a lease and pay for it, I think it would be worth it to go down that road if Mark still thinks that's a good idea, and so do you. So anyway, that being said,
Well, let me know, because it's a lot of work to, what I want to do is have all the committees meeting in the same location, or at least the same facility. It might be confusing if we have some at the church and some at Toluca Lake Elementary.
Yeah.
But if Mark is willing to, Mark, so the Catholic Church owns your building, I'm assuming?
it's not Catholic. It's Methodist, I believe, Mark. But
Methodist,
go ahead,
okay.
Mark, and then Jonathan.
It's a Methodist church, Colby, but what a convoluted mess.
Yes, welcome to my world.
Yeah, I feel for you. And in fact, what concerns me is I hope somebody is actually sending some information, because we can't be the only one having issues, right, with this.
No, we're not. But we are ahead of most neighborhood councils. Some are a little bit ahead of us, but we're not lagging behind.
Yeah, the issue for so Colby, the issue for us, which you've already pointed out, is it's all the committee meetings, and I can't guarantee anything around that. And I think it's better to have your one location set, just so everybody knows. And so I'm going to look right now so I can answer you about March 31st, because I already was going to miss the April scheduled meeting because I'm going to be in Spain for a vacation. So let me look. That March 31st is on what day? Wednesday.
Friday.
Also, it might be the 28th. It might not be the last day of March. I'll have to. I believe it's either the 28th or the 31st, which is, don't quote me on the 31st. It might be a day or two before the 31st. The Brown Act requires in-person meetings, at least a quorum to be in-person meeting.
And I don't want to jump the queue, but regarding any different meeting date other than our regularly scheduled one, Fred, can you please make sure that we get notification in advance, and if there are alternate dates, to provide those, so it's not dropped on us. We, have time to plan and or choose between perhaps one of two dates. That would be very helpful.
It's gonna make everybody guess. So
Yeah,
well,
I'm gonna tell you.
right. So I can already tell you. So I don't know whether I can just tell you that it's going to be really tight that week for me, but I can try to make something work. Yeah, I'll try to make something work.
I also see Lee. Sorry, I see Lee Jameson is trying to get on also. Just Fred.
Thank you. I promoted him.
Yeah, well, Fred is handling that. I just had a side idea, Colby. Is this going to allow us to extend our budget? In other words, with all of this rigmarole with trying to get meeting places and dates and so forth, can we go back to the city and say, look, we may not spend all of our money this year and we need to carry it forward? Can we do that?
There's no provision for any kind of budget adjustments or any procedural change in that. No, we just need to get it done.
Well, I would support a move like that. And besides which, I want to remind everybody here that we're elected and done as staff. So, this idea of always having to ask permission, and I'm not certainly promoting massive rule breaking or anything like that, is, we have to tell them that this is what we want. And there's an excellent basis for, extending that and carrying over part of our part of our budget, especially if they're responsible for thrusting us in such chaos. That's how I would.
Well,
put it.
it's not done. It's statewide. It's a statewide brownie.
Okay, well, still, we have good reason to want to extend, keep that money in our budget until we know what's going on. So good idea, Ren.
Okay, Jonathan, go ahead.
Thank you. I attended that meeting and there wasn't a whole lot of common sense in Dunn's management of facts presented by the state. So Colby's right, it's a state law, but Dunn is managing all of the details and it was really devoid of common sense. With that said, there's currently a discussion going on that board members are required to be vaccinated for COVID and the public is not required to be vaccinated. That's worth keeping your eyes on as well. Thank you.
Hold on a second. Where'd you see that, Jonathan?
I attended the meeting and that was clearly stated. There was, in fact,
Ed?
sorry.
Wow.
He's correct. Jonathan is correct. And I've spoken with Dunn about this and just a long story short, they don't know how yet they don't know how they're going to check on the COVID status. So for right now, there won't be, I'm told, since there's no way to verify the COVID vaccination status of board members, then the meetings will continue without that.
And it's
without
also
that.
worth noting that pronouncement is being challenged. So
Yeah. It won't
But
be-
so what I'm trying to say is Jonathan, if we actually, looks like we will have in-person meetings next month. Hopefully, we will be able to meet as I'm saying, and I don't believe anyone will be challenged with a COVID card check.
Okay, very good. Lee Jameson, go ahead.
Oh, hi, it's actually Lee and me. We were just on the phone with Erica, so she understands what we're doing. He's having technical issues with his phone, so I'm using my phone as a stakeholder, but I told her I can also use it as for him. So what she suggested is that when he's going to talk as Lee whenever he wants, and if he needs my help, that I can help him. But then when I want to talk, then I will talk as Joanne. And so she's well aware of this if you need to contact her. He wants to speak now, but I just want to let you know that we're both sharing my phone.
Good evening, everybody. My
Thank
suggestion,
you so much.
is Magnolia Grill closes at 1800 hours. Maybe we could have our meetings there once a month. They would probably accommodate it because they're making money for it. The store or the restaurant would be closed after 1800. We could have our meeting. That's it. Break.
Okay, thanks, Lee. All right, so with that, we'll make a note of that. And I think that does it for community news. I think it was community news. Is there any more from the Lee Jameson camp? Your hand's still up.
Yeah, I would, speaking as myself, as Joanne Rivas, stakeholder, that I would like to see it continue at the elementary school. We missed the first few minutes. We missed the beginning because we were on the phone with Erica, but just as a stakeholder, I believe that that's where it's always been. It's convenient and it's just well-known and a good space. So
And established.
Yeah,
established location.
I think everyone agrees with you, including myself.
Cool.
Yes, well noted. And okay, well, thank you for that. So let's go to old business now, and 6.1, I'm going to hand it off to Ren. Ren, go ahead, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move through this pretty quickly, and of course, people can raise their hands and we can discuss it if we need to. The community plan is now it's not going to be available for us to start to review until at least late spring, early summer. But keep an eye on it. Once it comes, we're going to need to really spend some time looking at various aspects of this. They say war is too important to be left to the generals, and community planning is too important to be left to the planners. So we need to keep an eye on them. 6.2 state legislative agenda. The one I'm looking at right away here, SB4. It looks like they're trying to basically have oh, great. What happened? Oh, there.
I think we lost Ren, which is, oh, there you are. Okay, he's coming back. Let's see if he can connect, it says. Hope so. Otherwise, we can come back to him. Go ahead, Tess.
Well, once Ren has spoken on the legislative agenda, I have a couple bills to add to keep an eye on. Did we lose him?
I got a couple of bills for you too. Overdue.
I don't think so. I am not overdue on any bills.
First bill. Okay, are you back? Let's see. No. Shoot. Okay, well, how about this? Why don't we go to let's go to the bills. We'll skip ahead for Tess to do some speaking and come back to Ren when his microphone gets better.
Okay.
For now, go ahead, Tess.
So, okay, so there's, as you know, well, probably as usual, a lot of land use legislation coming down the pike. Oh, it looks like Ren is back. Ren?
I'm really sorry. I
Go ahead, SB4.
cut myself off. Yeah, SB4, I just, looks like they're trying to supersede all local control over planning. I mean, it's very broadly based, and at least the initial language. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail as they move it through committee. But SB4 is what I'm looking at. Tess, you have some others that?
Yeah, I would agree that it's badly written now or overbroad, and that it would need to be amended, and that's something to watch out for. I would also say that SB 423 is very, very bad. That one is land use, streamlined housing approvals for multifamily housing developments, throwing sort of all of a lot of the, the normal approvals out the window, which is problematic. So that needs to be kept a close watch on. I would also suggest, and, I can add these to, to our watch list, planning and land use parcels and changes in uses, which is AB 323. We have updated density bonus law, AB 637, and a couple related to CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act exemption, SB 91, and another one, SB 239. So those are some of the top ones I think that need to be watched. And they're, still in the early stages. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the housing element later in the meeting. I'll save my comments there.
Okay.
So are you familiar with any of those bills or any comments, Ren?
Lee's got his hand up too, by the way.
Yeah, let me just answer your question quickly,
Okay.
Tess. I've kind of read through these things quickly. I didn't spend a lot of time on the language because I think these things get modified and changed around and joined together, and all of that goes on. But we certainly need to keep an eye on the state. One side comment, I think a presumption behind all of this housing, additional housing that they're talking about, is that the state population will continue to grow.
That's too bad.
Over the last 2 years, it's actually gone down. So it may be that at some point people need to look around and go, hey, wait a minute, we don't need a lot of additional housing. We need more affordable housing. But that's a different set of rules and regulations. Making it easy to build a lot more housing, I don't think necessarily is critical at this stage. But anyway, we'll go ahead. Lee, you had something?
Yes, good evening. This is actually for the stakeholders to copy this. Huntington Beach or Huntington Park is challenging that state law density and all that. Maybe we could join up and get some momentum and change the state law to where it's no longer mandatory to have this high density, because they're smart. They said they don't want to be like Los Angeles. We are already screwed, but we can still, if we can get that law changed, start trying to get ourselves squared away. Thank you.
I want to respond to what Lee said and also comment on something you mentioned, Ren, that population decrease, I believe, has been ongoing for the last 3 years in California, not just 2, but definitely a drop in population. And Lee, regarding I think there's a class action lawsuit, and I'm not sure if you're referring to the same one I'm aware of, that there are 3, I believe, coastal cities pushing back on one of the statewide, I can't remember if it's SB 9, but it's to take back local control because they've registered such displeasure with being dictated to by Sacramento. So maybe if you could double check and make sure that that's the same lawsuit, I'd be interested, because I know that there are other cities considering coming on board, but I haven't looked at it in a month or 2, so I don't know what the current status is. But thanks for the reminder.
Thank you.
I like that idea too, but to get the city of LA to get behind that, I think that's going to be tough. Tough. But I like what you have to say. Okay, Ren, let's go back to
keep moving here. The village clock. The only good news on that is that the council office is now stepping in to help expedite it. So we're looking like we're still the same 3 months out that we were at the beginning of the year, but hopefully it'll start to move. The West Toluca Lake Monument and signage. Do we have any comment on that? I haven't seen anything this month.
Jonathan, maybe?
Jonathan would be the one, yeah. Jonathan, is there anything new on that?
What I said last week or last month was, I don't see the way things stand in the neighborhood council, and the vice president doesn't understand why that would be a neighborhood council issue since it's in West Toluca Lake. So I think structurally, I just don't see the muscle in order to contend with a project of that nature when people don't understand what the neighborhood council potentials are. Thanks.
Okay. The parking district, Auckland Avenue area, Fred, do you have an update on that?
No, not since we last spoke with the lady who lives on the street. I drove by or rode my bike, went by, and not in my car, but I went by there, and there's a lot of parking on that street. It's just really in front of her house. That's kind of a mess, but I don't know. I think she's on an uphill battle on that too. And we told her some options and really haven't had much or any communication since. And that's really it.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's an example of once you let people know all the work that they personally have to do and their neighbors have to do in order to get something like that going, it loses steam. A lot of people call up and say, why doesn't the city do this or that? And then you say, well, in order for the city to do that, you have to get a petition or you have to get council action. And this is, there's all the front end work that needs to happen, and they don't want to do it, or they're not able to do it. And so it dies.
The other thing I think the community members need to know is this property has 4 on-site parking spots, a 2-car garage and 2 cars for the driveway, and had an ADU in the back. So I'm assuming that they're not using their garage for parking, and maybe have old cars in the driveway. In the back, it's off the alleyway. So I don't know. It's a little bit confusing that someone would be complaining about parking when they have 4 spots on their land and a tenant. So again, and the rest of the street is fine except in front of her house.
Okay, well, it's
that's all I have.
Good to be able to dig in on these issues and see what the realities are. Moving on.
There's a couple hands up, Ren,
Oh, sorry.
including mine. So the note from the last meeting was that we were going to take this issue off the agenda until we hear further from the applicant. So
Yeah.
I would suggest we do that, so we don't have to discuss it unless,
Done.
know, yeah.
Done. And listen, since I'm making some notes, are we also taking off 6.4, the Tulip Lake Monument and signage, or are we leaving that on?
Jonathan,
Jonathan want to take it off.
Jonathan, how do you feel about that?
I think it's clearly a neighborhood council project, but I don't hear anyone challenging a conversation from someone who doesn't understand why a neighborhood council would be dealing with something in West Tulip Lake. And unless board members see a problem with that, which I do, it would be me once again against the whole board of people who just want to work in the village. So let's take it off, because there's no sense speaking English if no one wants to listen to it. Thanks.
You know, a suggestion on that, Jonathan, is perhaps maybe taking it off temporarily, and when the elections come for the new board in June or this year, perhaps to readdress that after the new board is seated with this new fresh set of eyeballs. But for now, maybe take it off and then a couple of months readdress it.
That's what I was thinking too. Thank you.
My suggestion. Okay, Lee, go ahead.
Yes, can you please give me the exact numbers, 523, or what's the numbers on Auckland for that incident or project?
I'll have to
parking.
email that to you, but I can tell you this: it's the very first house on the northwest corner off Magnolia, across the alleyway. So you have, I guess that's the Magnolia Grill, isn't there? Right there on Auckland and Magnolia, and then behind the Magnolia Grill, there's an alleyway. Across that alleyway is this
Right.
house.
Okay, thank you.
So that's where it is.
You helped me. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anytime. Happy to. Okay, so 6.6.
Yeah, the feedback we're getting on the CIS, a lot of neighborhood councils have chimed in on this, and I think at least the sense I get at this point that some of the council people at least are going to reconsider this and kind of take it through some public comments at least, and not just pass it through on a rainy afternoon. Tess, have you heard any?
I haven't followed it since we submitted our CIS, but I have heard a few things that, there's a lot of people annoyed about it. I can have, more updates at the next meeting if you like. I focused on state legislative agenda and the housing element for tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then the last one, the ULA transfer tax. And I think, we've spoken pretty strongly. I don't know if there's any more information on that. I think, at least on our board, we're all feeling like it needs to be reconsidered.
Well, we voted unanimously, I believe, to support a community impact statement for the repeal, which will be on the board meeting agenda in 2 weeks. That was the Government Affairs Committee meeting last week. So I haven't heard anyone on our board who doesn't support the repeal, but I guess we'll find out next week.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's easy. Okay, that's any old business that we didn't agenda, but somebody wants to bring up?
I do. We never talked about this even in the general board meeting, and that is about the Hollywood Neighborhood Council, with all of their board members resigning. About you remember that about a month or two ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And supposedly they were non-compliant, and Dunn took over. We were trying to put them back into compliance by making them attend an event and having the Hollywood Neighborhood Council pay for it, but the board members didn't agree with that event, and Dunn was forcing them to do that. So they all resigned, and I guess the Dunn representative in charge of that has since been laid off. And I don't know what's happened after that, but none of us ever talked about that. And so I don't know if we need to, but I just thought I would bring it up to see if anyone had any comments on what's going on with the Hollywood Neighborhood Council.
So Fred, I think that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back to get the general manager, Raquel Beltran, relieved of her position by Mayor Bass a couple of weeks ago. I was not aware that the Dunn representative, it was Mario Hernandez. He's been laid off. You
are correct. The Rachel, not Mario. It was-
okay, because I'm not, it could be, but I hadn't heard it. You know, okay, so then we strike that. We're not sure of that.
That's
And
Rachel was let go. That's
yeah,
it.
but I know that the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council has petitioned to be reinstated. I hadn't looked into it any further, but it certainly caused a lot of attention on Dunn. And I know that there have been sort of new lines being redrawn and proposed with respect to how neighborhood councils interact with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So I believe overall this is going to be positive, because there was a great deal of overreach being felt by the neighborhood councils. And as you know, we passed a community impact statement to register our very strong disapproval about the mishandling of the CIS portal. So, but I have nothing further on that topic at the moment. So other than that, they have requested to be reinstated, and I'm not sure what the status of that
Oh,
is.
is that right? Because the elections, isn't the election the same for all the neighborhood councils? So
No, there are different regions. There are 6 or 7 regions, I believe, and there's the election dates are not, they're staggered, so that the city can handle all of, the city clerk can handle that on a staggered basis. And I don't know in which election cycle they are.
Understood. All right. Well, thank you for shedding light on that. We'll just see how that develops, but I thought that was kind of an interesting story. Okay, Lee, go ahead.
Hi, Lee does not wish to speak on this. Am I able to speak now as a stakeholder?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. The Joanne Rivas stakeholder. This is a really important issue for me, and I think for all neighborhood councils. And I think we all need to come together, because Dunn is supposed to be advisory. They're supposed to be in giving us advice, helping us, not taking over and dictating us. And now I realize that they were in exigent circumstances, exhaustive circumstances, I'm sorry, and they kind of had no other choice but to turn the board over to Dunn. But then at that point, when Dunn demanded, that they spend $4,000 on something that they don't support, they do, that they're not supportive of having, doing things with the police, from what I understand. And they also are not supportive because it was outside of their district. It was a project in West Hollywood, not even in their area. And they were forced to spend this money on that. And then not only that, they were forced to attend or be kicked off their board. So they took a stand and they did withdraw. But do we really want Dunn forcing our neighborhood councils that you're going to lose your spot if, say, Mr. Abiri, if you don't attend this event, you're going to be kicked off the board? Do we really want Dunn to have that much power? It's bad enough, like you're talking about with the vaccine mandates, that, they're going to prove who has the vaccine, who doesn't. They are overreaching. They have tentacles that are, it's just getting worse and worse. And either the council stand up to them now before it gets worse and we support each other, or it's just going to get worse. Thank you.
All right. Well, give me tickets to Neil Diamond concert. I might have to think about that. But Mark, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Yeah, no, I was just going to respond to what Tess was saying, that I just looked online and it looks like there's a board meeting for Hollywood Neighborhood Council on March 13th.
Okay.
Which is today. So there you go.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
now, I don't know whether it's happening or not, but it's what the agenda is posted online.
Oh, well, that's great, Mark. Well, let's get moving so we can quit ours and join theirs. All right, 7.3, housing element update. Go ahead, Tess.
All right. So thank you. And I do agree with Joanne that we need to really take the reins on this one with Dunn. All right. So the housing element, and this ties in with the community plan and with RENA. RENA is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, which is this number that, in my opinion, has been concocted in the opinion of many experts, and that in this RENA cycle, that a whole bunch of units are going to have to be built in Los Angeles to satisfy the RENA needs allocation. And that number is 456,643 units. Now, that is based on math that has been challenged, but has not yet been, changed. So within the RENA 8-year cycle, we have to add in the city of Los Angeles 456,643 units. Now, since we don't have our community plan update yet, the housing element basically distributes these units supposedly somewhat equitably throughout Los Angeles, but not really, because, for example, I believe there's little or no new units being added in Brentwood, for example. So the really rich areas may escape this sort of treatment. If you were to do the math, all right, the population of Los Angeles is currently almost 4 million. It's 3,912,920 or so, okay? And the population, just as an example, for the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council is 12,500. That is 0.3% of the population of Los Angeles. So therefore, if you do the math, if you break out the what's 0.3% of 456,000 units, the RENA number to be distributed, roughly speaking, in the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council District would be 1,370 units. Now, that's a lot. Now, there's a way in which this can be, I don't know if thwarted is the word, but challenged. And I think we need to be ready to do that, in my opinion. So I'll just run through everybody here what that process would be. We'd need to review the housing element for our city, let's say Toluca Lake, or there isn't anything posted yet for that. And since we're not really talking about specific cities, we're talking about neighborhoods, because West Toluca Lake isn't official city, for example, nor is Toluca Terrace for that matter. But once you go to this planning map, this housing element map on the planning website, you click on interactive maps, you zoom in on your community, you go to ZIMAS, Z-I-M-A-S, which I think you're all familiar with, look at the current zoning for those sites and do a comparison. I can write this up and send it to the entire committee if interested, and then we'd want to tabulate the results for what we get. And once we have all of that information, the housing element from the city, we can challenge it by saying, well, look, you've underutilized this space while you've overcrowded that space. And I've attended a workshop on how to do this and how to challenge these numbers, which I think is going to be very, very important for us to do, or we're all going to be living like sardines, which I personally do not want to do. And there's no basis for it because as Ren Blight has pointed out, we are, our population is decreasing, it's not increasing. And I believe a lot of this information is concocted in order to support the builder lobby and the developer lobby. It's not necessary. We're built out, and there's no basis for all of this being put in the most expensive zip codes in probably in the entire country. So, but something to be kept in mind, we have to keep an eye on it. And the planning department's remit seems to be to plan, build. And, for those of us who live in a reasonably built out area already, I don't know why we, have to shove more and more housing into it. And I was very interested to hear, I think last month from Ren, or one of you stated that the permits for the ADUs have not been nearly as high statewide or citywide as expected. So I think that is very, very interesting. And one last note on the housing element, apparently Montecito has completely escaped any RENA allocation. And that's got some people pretty irritated, because why should, the super rich have to, why should the super rich not have to carry their fair share if the entire state is being saddled with these, RENA allocations across the state of California? So that's it for me. I can certainly put this together and email it to people or make it available to put on the agenda so that folks, members of the public who have an interest can look at it and calculate the numbers and look at places where, you know, there's lower density, where if this is going to be spread out relatively evenly, that we make sure that that is in fact the case. That's it.
Well, that's really terrific, Tess. And yeah.
It's not terrific, actually.
No,
It's,
no,
it's-
I don't mean that. I mean, your report is terrific. The information in your report is just, and it's scary, but your reporting was terrific. I just also want to remind the committee members that there is an awful lot of development happening around Toluca Lake right now, under construction and in West Toluca Lake. You probably know, even on Moore Park, there's 2 big buildings under construction. The third one's about to start. We know the one on Vineland, Vineland and Moore Park, and also on Lancashire and Whipple. Not to mention the big Chase Bank building on Riverside and Lancashire. We should find out what's going on with that, because that's been 5 or 6 years in the making, where they're going to be, 200 apartments or so. The Gelson's project is one on Riverside, and that's a lot of development. And then that's just
huge amount. Yeah.
our little neighborhood. When you cross over the 134 and the 101, oh my God, same thing. You should go down Hartsook Street or Blix, or even Denny and Riverton and Kling around there off of Lancashire. I mean, it's
I think,
one building after another. It's just,
yeah, I think we have to fight this density, but I have a feeling Lee might agree. Lee?
Yes, go ahead, Lee. You got the floor, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, he wants to speak. I'm going to have him speak first, but I do want to speak as a stakeholder after.
Okay.
I agree totally. There's way too much density. We have to do something about it. And I mean, the more you build, the more people you're going to attract. It's just common sense. The more we build, the more people out of state are. So we have to sometime put up the sign, no vacancies. Otherwise, we're going to continue with this. And the other option for the crazies in the street, Greyhound therapy, get them out of the area. We've got to do something. And now so we can still hopefully save the community. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I speak? And for me, as Joanne, stakeholder, I think it's time that, besides just standing up to Dunn, that we also stand up to Sacramento. We should all be sick of it by now, for the state trying to impose their will on each community. Every community is different. Let the communities decide for themselves. But even in this board, though, there is an element, and I'm just going to say it, that is very pro village, and everything, because they know, and they're also very pro development. We're not going to mention names, but they're pro development, and they're village people. So there's a part of me that wants to just, kind of be nasty and say, okay, build it all in the village, build it all along Toluca Estates, let them have the density since they want it so bad. But that being said, it needs to stop. I agree.
One more thing. I'd like the stakeholders, the good people, to please hook up and get this going as far as some momentum, as far as what Huntington Beach has. I will try to find out the other communities, but if we all pull together, maybe we can stop these state laws. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you know what? I feel bad for the people on Toluca Estates Drive too, because Universal has developed tons. And that metro property, when that gets developed, it's going to change that street, and that's going to be density up the, what. So like I've always said, I want everyone to open their window and scream out, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. Okay, Jonathan, go ahead.
I'd like to point out here, if you catch your own conversation, if you listen to what you're saying, everything Tess said is very intelligent and it's academic, because she's a hard worker and does research. But what's missing from the conversation is an address, a response to the motivation behind the state of emergency, behind the urgency. And that motivation can be challenged successfully by a neighborhood council. In fact, there is no other arm in the Los Angeles government that's capable of taking on the mindset of city council. And what I mean by that is you're failing to identify that the big lie in front of everyone is that what we see living in our streets is going to be solved by building more housing. You absolutely have to take it on, that it's a lie, that the people living in the streets, there are exceptions, but what we see are people who have managed to acclimate and actually prefer living in the streets than going to a shelter bed. The statistic proves that to us. The Cecil Hotel downtown is evidence that they do not seek alternative accommodations. Until people, in the neighborhood councils start having a grassroots conversation as to what's really going on in the streets, that the only solution is not housing, but medical care, rehab, prison, things of that sort, enforcement. That's a really tough conversation. And it has to start in the neighborhood councils where people are encouraged not to be intimidated, to feel that they can speak comfortably based on what they see. And you are the folks that have to sponsor or invite that conversation. It isn't happening. And I pointed out that to have a conversation solely academic about the numbers, 700,000 people have left California. Everyone knows that. Why are they intent on building more housing? Well, look at our streets, okay? It's just a very false presentation. It's a manipulation, but only a neighborhood council, only the grassroots, which would be the neighborhoods. What happens in West Toluca Lake? When I attend test meeting, one after the other stakeholder approaches me, says, my God, doesn't anybody see what's going on? So that's what I encourage you to do, is create a venue to have tough conversations about what nonprofits are attracting into how there isn't any resilience being built into the system of people living in the streets. There's no accountability. In fact, if you go on a vacation, you're probably going to seek out a lot of the attributes that are being provided. Those people, free phone, free food, free laundry, free place to live, no accountability. You're probably going to look for that in your next vacation. Probably not on the streets of LA, maybe in a national park, but the same attributes. That's worth having a conversation. And it's not going to happen until you folks start understanding why it would be purposeful. Thank you.
If I could add a couple things about the housing element, and thank you for that, Jonathan. In fact, I have written an analysis of this. I have made it available to one or two people, and I'm I may have more to tell you about it at next month's meeting, because I do want to make it available a bit more generally after a few key people have seen it. But I have written an analysis on precisely that problem, on the mayor's emergency declaration and her executive directive, and that housing, it's falsely called a housing crisis, and we don't have enough data. Anyway, I won't say anything further upon it now, maybe at the next meeting, but I will add, as far as the housing element goes, that the city of Los Angeles did not dispute the RENET numbers of about 460,000 units being put into the city of Los Angeles over the course of the next 8 years. But the question has to be asked, who is it determining the appropriate number of individual sites that are being rezoned under the housing element? And who has the community's interests in mind, if not us? So we have to be on top of that, as Ren has stated. And the way it works, I understand, is once we're presented with our community-based plan, then we have to work collaboratively, and then there's approximately 1 year, I understand, to rezone for city council approval. So we need to make sure that any of the sites that are identified that we approve of, and or that we provide alternates to things that we object to, as just one example. And the last thing I want to mention is, one of the fundamentals of urban planning is that you work with what you have, and we have to be aware of the fact that most of the San Fernando Valley is built on the grid. Now, our district, or our neighborhood council district, is not, is mostly on the grid, but not entirely. I mean, I think once you get sort of south of Riverside, it's not as, it is not as grid-like any longer, but that's going to play a role. And I think one last thought is that, I don't know if we have any malls in our district, do we? Do we have any mall? I don't think we have any major malls. I learned one thing, perhaps Ren, you can comment on this. Nonprofits don't pay property tax. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Ren?
Yeah, different, it depends, but, I mean, it's not a uniform automatic, don't pay property taxes, especially if they own property that generates a cash flow and so forth. But, a lot of nonprofits are exempt, and, that's something that, could be revisited,
Okay.
especially if developers are using these nonprofits to get around, to make effectively more profit and at the expense of not having to pay property taxes over a period of time. So
Okay.
it's something we should look at.
Okay.
Okay, we got Mark and then Lee. Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to answer to Tessa's question from a church's standpoint. At least for us, we do pay property taxes because we do have other groups that use the facility besides just the church. But Ren is right about other nonprofits. That's just strictly theirs. I believe, don't hold me to this, but I do believe that they don't have to necessarily pay property taxes. So, but churches, at least ours does, and we do them every year.
Interesting.
Got it.
Okay, Lee,
Looks
go
like-
ahead.
Hold on, let me.
Real quick question for my education. Specifically, can you define the meaning of grid?
Grid is a square, like Manhattan is a perfect grid. You got Avenue, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th Avenue, and then you've got, all the way from the Village, which would, I guess, technically be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th Street to I think it goes into the 250s up into Harlem. So a grid is just a square system of building a city so that you always know where you are, 1st Street, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street. But lots of cities have grown in a less cohesive fashion. Like cities in Europe, for example, and in the old world grew in a more circular fashion because they had a center and a wall protecting them from marauders and barbarians. A lot of American cities are built on a grid. Do you know what a grid is, Lee?
Now I'm starting to think it means, like, for instance, the fire.
It's squares. Okay.
Got it.
So yeah, it's easier to find your way around in a grid because numerically you just go left to right. So.
And thank you.
Yeah, a lot of good info right there. Well, gosh, do we have more to talk about, or should we go have dinner now?
It's up to you. You're the co-chair.
Yeah.
I've got one more thing
got
that
something to
just
say.
came up. There's an application for the new tenants at 10123 Riverside Drive. That's just catty corner from Trader Joe's, and it's the new restaurant in there. And they put in for a restaurant beverage program. So I don't know. I haven't seen the application yet to know what specifically they're talking about. I assume it's a pro forma. They want to serve beer and wine with their meals, but we'll keep an eye on it and have it on next month's agenda.
Hey, Ren, what company?
I think it's Sweet Garden. It's going into Old Honey Baked Hams. Isn't that what it is?
No,
Well,
no,
you got,
that's-
no, this is
That's another
across.
one. This one is it's called Maple
Across the
something.
street. Oh, no,
It's where the counter used to be.
Red Maple. Every place
That's
has
it.
that hamburger
That's it, Red
shop
Maple.
counter.
And
I see.
it's going where there used to be a hamburger place in there.
Yeah, it was the counter.
The counter.
So is so that's not Michael?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, Michael was planning to rent the area vacated by the counter, but apparently the rent was too high, so he regrouped. But are you looking at the report that just came
So-
out today?
Well,
Ren? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just saw it there. I didn't get a chance to read it in detail. Can you see it? Is it?
Mark, do you want to finish your question?
yeah, so the question I had, I just, because I know there's a shift. So sweet salt is going to where honey baked ham used to be. Do we know what's going where sweet salt currently is?
That I do not know.
Okay.
Haven't heard a word on that one. Yeah.
So, Ren, I'm looking at the early notification system, and I don't see that here. I see Truce, Magnolia, Cleon, but I did see something. I thought about an alcohol permit earlier today on one of these reports. But anyway, whatever it is, we can put it on the agenda for next month. Yeah. So I can't pull it up right at this moment, but anyway, I did see something to that effect. I thought it was the station, the Chevron station that we were, or the 7-Eleven application that we were discussing last month, but whatever it is, we'll put it on next month's agenda.
Good.
Yeah, let's just talk really quick one more time about next meeting. And I guess it's to be determined if we're gonna meet at March 31st. Are we gonna meet at all? We're gonna meet in person? Like, I don't even know still. So I guess we'll just communicate by email or see what happens. But let's say, I think Colby said March 31st was too late and we had to do March 28th. Which I think is a Monday. Let me check. If it was, since we're all together now.
27th is a Monday.
It was the 27th. Thank you, Mark, on Monday. Can everybody do it on the 27th?
No, I cannot.
And I think Mark said he was busy. So what about the 28th?
Yeah, I'm unfortunately, I'm unavailable both of those days. It's starting to come toward Holy Week now.
Understood. Okay, so if that's the case, I'll forget about the idea of having our April meeting in March, and we'll just see if we have one in person in April. And if not, then we won't have one in April, or maybe we can have our April meeting in May together. And
Well,
then
the whole community will go to hell without us, Fred. Are we?
I don't know what
I mean,
to say.
theoretically speaking, not literally, Mark,
Yes. Just, no, let's not go to hell, please.
No. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you guys in charge. I'm so glad it's you, not me. All right. You decide and
Well,
just.
well, I'm not going to decide. Colby's going to tell me what to do, and I'll spread the word. But whatever it is whatever it is, I guess.
Great. And if you could just leave us some options, I always appreciate that, since, I do have the smallest of lives outside of the neighborhood council.
Well, again, I don't know, because it's going to be the second Monday of every month, usually, if it's where our regular.
Well, all I'm saying, Fred, is, for our next meeting, if a few options might possibly be available before we select a date, that would be appreciated.
Right now on our agenda, it says it's on April 10th. So whether or not we're having an in-person meeting or not, it would be April 10th.
Excellent. All right, April 10th. Very good.
But we don't know if that's going to happen.
Well,
that's the thing.
We'll find out.
That's what we have to wait and find out. And if
I
we
wish
don't,
everybody well on April the 10th if you do meet, and I'll see you in May.
And then otherwise
Okay.
we'll see everyone in May. Exactly. So okay, well then there you go. The time is 7:13. Close the meeting. No one else has anything to say. And we will either see you with April showers or May flowers.
Thank you, guys.
Good night,
See you later.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.